Outside Celestial Merchant City, several figures darted through the air, skimming just above the ground. Their speed wasn't particularly fast, but they moved without a sound. Even the air around them seemed to ripple and disperse in their wake, as if they were ghosts. The path they chose was secluded, making it nearly impossible for anyone to notice them. Despite the chaos engulfing Celestial Merchant City, these figures slipped out unnoticed. With a sharp sound, they leaped forward again, their feet barely grazing the void. Cloaked in wide black robes, the wind caught the edge of the robe worn by the one at the front, revealing the handsome yet sinister face of Xie Yan from Evil Wind Cave Heaven. Young Cave Lord, Protector Lu and the others have been held up? Someone whispered behind Xie Yan. Xie Yan nodded slightly, his eyes cold as he glanced back. He sneered, "Those fools dare to make a move against Evil Wind Cave Heaven. Let them be for now. Once we leave the Celestial Merchant region, our reinforcements will meet us. Then, we won't need to worry." "Yes," the men behind him responded in unison. Xie Yan, your little trick to slip away unnoticed is clever, but it might not work as well as you think." Suddenly, a voice echoed from a mountain peak ahead. Whoosh! The group came to an abrupt halt. Xie Yan's expression turned grim as he looked up. Standing atop the peak was a man in white, smiling down at him. Xie Yan sneered coldly, "Zhou Qian? You actually tracked me?" Zhou Qian smirked. "You have your schemes, but I have my methods. You may have found me, but coming here alone. Do you really think you can take what's mine?" Xie Yan's voice dripped with icy menace. Zhou Qian chuckled. "I'm not alone." His gaze shifted toward the northern forest. "Brother Qining, since you're already here, why not show yourself?" "Haha. As expected, nothing escapes you, Brother Zhou." A voice boomed from the forest. Moments later, several figures emerged, led by none other than Chan Ying from the Phantom Demon sect. Xie Yan's eyes darkened as he watched Qining approach. "Since when did Phantom Demon sect start working with Cosmic Cave Heaven? I have only one silver tower. Even if you manage to seize it, who among you will keep it?" "Let's not waste time with tricks, Xie Yan. First, we take the silver tower from your hands, then we'll discuss how to split it," Zhou Qian said with a smile. "Take it? You're dreaming." Xie Yan's tone grew even colder. "Haha, most of Evil Wind Cave Heaven's powerhouses are tied up right now. And those few men beside you? I doubt they'll be much help," Qining laughed. "Is that so? Then come and try." A strange light flickered in Xie Yan's eyes. Qining and Zhou Qian exchanged a glance. Their bodies tensed briefly before they suddenly charged forward, unleashing waves of primordial energy that transformed into two fierce beams, slicing through the air toward Xie Yan. But as the two attacks closed in, Xie Yan only sneered, making no move to defend himself. Just as the energy beams were about to strike, a figure cloaked in black stepped out from behind him. The figure extended a withered hand, black light swirling around its fingertips, and grabbed at the incoming energy. Crack! The skeletal hand gripped the two beams of primordial energy and crushed them, causing the energy to explode with a deafening crack. Boom! The figure then waved its sleeve, unleashing a ring of black light that surged toward Zhou Qian and Qining with lightning speed. Death aura? A death mystique stage expert? The sudden turn of events shocked Zhou Qian and Qining. Their faces changed as they quickly tapped the void with their toes, retreating. They immediately unleashed their strongest martial techniques, striking out fiercely at the approaching black wave. Bang! Bang! As the black wave passed, their powerful martial arts crumbled instantly. Fortunately, they had managed to retreat beyond its reach, landing unsteadily on a giant tree, eyes locked on the black-robed figure with deep caution. "May I ask which elder of Evil Wind Cave Heaven we have the honor of meeting?" Zhou Qian asked gravely. "Heh, you little brats love playing tricks, don't you? The silver tower was rightfully claimed by Evil Wind Cave Heaven, so stop causing trouble." The black-robed figure slowly raised his head, revealing a face marked by an eerie black scorpion tattoo. "Demon Scorpion Elder?" Zhou Qian's expression changed drastically. His voice trembled as he spoke. "I didn't expect even Elder Scorpion would come out. and that you'd be hiding behind Xie Yan. It was clear Zhou Qian knew of this elder. A genuine powerhouse at the minor completion of the Death Mystique stage, Demon Scorpion Elder was a feared figure and one of Evil Wind Cave Heaven's elders. Typically, such a master would be in seclusion, rarely making appearances. Choning frowned deeply, knowing that the Demon Scorpion Elder was a formidable powerhouse at the Death Mystique stage, far beyond their capabilities. Engaging with him wasn't even on the same level. Moreover, the reinforcements they brought were currently occupied holding back other strong members from Evil Wind Cave Heaven and wouldn't arrive in time. Heh, you two little ones. For the sake of Cosmic Cave Heaven and Phantom Demon Sect, I'll let you off this time. Leave now, and maybe you'll have a chance to live. The Demon Scorpion Elder sneered, his yellowed teeth emanating a chilling aura. Since you know who I am, you should also know what I'm capable of. Zhou Qian and Qianing exchanged glances, seeing the frustration and helplessness reflected in each other's eyes. They knew the Demon Scorpion Elder was no benevolent figure. If he weren't wary of the forces backing them, he would have killed them long ago. Let's go. The two decided swiftly. There was no point in staying if they couldn't make a difference. Zhou Qian waved his hand, and their group quickly retreated. Watching them flee, Xie Yan let out a sigh of relief, smiling. Many thanks to Elder Scorpion for helping this time. My task is to escort the Silver Tower safely. I can't allow anything to happen to it, the Demon Scorpion Elder replied indifferently, waving it off. We should continue then, Xie Yan quickly suggested. Fortunately, they had kept the Demon Scorpion Elder's presence hidden. Otherwise, if their enemies had been prepared, even if they weren't afraid, they would have been entangled for sure. Wait. The Demon Scorpion Elder shook his head and spoke up. What's wrong? Xie Yan was stunned, looking at him in confusion. We haven't fully dealt with the tale yet? The Demon Scorpion Elder grinned, though his smile was filled with murderous intent. There's someone else? Xie Yan was shocked, his gaze sweeping the area cautiously. He hadn't noticed anyone hiding nearby. Heh, and it's someone you're familiar with? The Demon Scorpion Elder chuckled coldly, his piercing gaze turning toward the distant forest. Young one, how much longer do you plan to hide? There was no response, and the forest remained eerily silent. Hiding in front of me? You're overestimating yourself? The Demon Scorpion Elder sneered, lifting a finger and sending out a deathly wave of energy, shooting into the forest. The lush greenery instantly withered and died as the death energy spread. Boom! A large tree suddenly exploded, scattering wood chips into the air. Two figures emerged from the debris, their expressions grim as they locked eyes with the distant Demon Scorpion Elder. Lin Dong. Xie Yan's gaze turned icy upon seeing the two figures forced out of hiding. A sinister smile crept onto his face. You fool! You had a path to heaven and didn't take it, but you chose to barge into hell instead. Elder Scorpion, we cannot let this brat escape. The Demon Scorpion Elder looked at Lin Dong and his companion with cold indifference before slowly nodding. His raspy voice dripped with murderous intent. Since the young cave lord has spoken, I shall take their lives. In midair, Lin Dong gazed at the Demon Scorpion Elder with a serious expression. His lips tightened. The appearance of this man was clearly beyond his expectations. He hadn't anticipated that Xie Yan would have a top-tier expert from the Death Mystique stage at his side. This Demon Scorpion Elder's strength was even greater than that of Elder Evil Bone. This is going to be troublesome. Lin Dong frowned. The situation was not unfolding as smoothly as he had hoped. Surprised, Lin Dong? Xie Yan sneered as he noticed the shift in Lin Dong's expression. I warned you before, there are some people you cannot afford to offend. Now, you're going to pay for your foolishness. You're celebrating a bit too soon, Lin Dong retorted with a cold smile, unimpressed by Xie Yan's rising arrogance. Do you still think you can escape? Xie Yan scoffed. Who said anything about escaping? Lin Dong's smile turned strange as he glanced at the Demon Scorpion Elder. Weren't you curious about how I left Elder Evil Bone in such a state? Well, let me show you. Whoosh. As Lin Dong finished speaking, he flicked his sleeve, and a crimson light shot out, transforming into a massive scarlet cauldron that floated in midair. Waves of powerful energy surged from the heaven-burning cauldron, spreading rapidly. A pure primordial treasure? The demon scorpion elder's eyes flickered with interest as he gazed at the heaven-burning cauldron. He let out an odd laugh. The demon scorpion elder had sharp eyes and immediately noticed that Lin Dong's heaven-burning cauldron had likely reached a high level. This kind of pure primordial treasure, even in the evil wind cave heaven, could be considered a top-tier artifact. It was somewhat believable that Lin Dong could have injured Elder Evil Bone by catching him off guard using such an item. Still, a treasure of this caliber isn't something a youngster like you can control. Why not hand it over to me for safekeeping? The demon scorpion elder sneered, his voice thick with greed. Even he didn't possess a high-tier pure primordial treasure. If he could seize the heaven-burning cauldron today, he would no longer fear even the top-tier experts who had reached great completion of the death mystique stage. If you want to take my treasure, you'll have to show what you're made of, Lin Dong grinned at the elder. Then he turned to Lingshan, who stood beside him, and said, I'll handle this old ghost. Can you deal with the others? No problem. Lingshan nodded excitedly. Her strength had fully recovered, and she had reached perfect completion of the life mystique stage. The enemy, Xie Yan, had only reached the peak of the great completion of the life mystique stage and posed little threat to her. Seeing her confidence, Lin Dong smiled. But as he turned back to face the demon scorpion elder, his eyes turned icy cold. He rapidly formed hand seals, and the heaven-burning cauldron erupted with a pillar of crimson light, surging toward the elder. Heh, I'm not as careless as Elder Evil Bone. The demon scorpion elder dodged the crimson light with a ghostly flicker of movement. He was known for being cautious and suspicious. Since he knew that Elder Evil Bone had been injured by the heaven-burning cauldron, he wouldn't let Lin Dong trap him so easily. Whether you go in or not isn't up to you, Lin Dong said with a cold smile, watching the elder's swift, shadow-like movements. Before, the heaven-burning cauldron might not have been able to forcefully absorb the demon scorpion elder, but now, after acquiring the 8 extreme scorching heaven gate, things were different. Boom. With lightning-fast hand seals, Lin Dong caused the cauldron to tremble violently. Then, it disappeared into thin air. Huh. The demon scorpion elder, who had been retreating quickly, saw this and his expression shifted. But before he could react, a massive shadow descended from above with indescribable speed. Crimson light flashed, and it was as if a giant beast had swallowed him whole. Lingshan, move quickly. Get the silver tower. Lin Dong shouted when he saw the demon scorpion elder swallowed by the cauldron. He immediately leaped inside the cauldron as well. This brat. Xie Yin frowned as he watched the demon scorpion elder get consumed by the heaven-burning cauldron, but then sneered. Does he think a single pure primordial treasure can trap Elder Scorpion? He's a genuine death mystique stage expert, far stronger than Elder Evil Bone. Hey, are you going to hand over the silver tower? Or do I need to make you? Lingshan's petite figure floated in front of Xie Yin, her cheerful smile making her look incredibly cute. You foolish little thing. Do you really think I'd show mercy? Xie Yan's eyes were cold. He had been furious with Lingshan ever since the auction, and now that she was standing in front of him, his hatred surged. Kill her, he ordered, his voice full of venom. Yes, sir. Several figures behind him answered, their primordial energy surging as they drew their sharp swords and attacked Lingshan with lethal intent. Lingshan pouted at the incoming assault, then clenched her fist and threw a punch. Boom. As her fist struck, a tidal wave of primordial energy formed in front of her. Blue light shimmered, and a massive whale materialized, crashing down with immense force on the attackers. Bam! Bam! The whale's powerful impact shattered their attack in an instant. Their swords, covered in primordial energy, cracked and shattered, while the overwhelming force crushed their chests, sending them flying backward. Blood spurted from their mouths as their bodies skidded across the ground. Xie Yan's face darkened as he watched his men get knocked aside by a single punch from Lingshan. His expression finally showed a hint of shock. Your turn. Lingshan smiled mischievously, looking at Xie Yin. Underworld King's heaven-breaking technique. Xie Yin's face turned grim as he stepped forward, unleashing a terrifying wave of dark energy from his body. Behind him, a massive shadow formed, emanating a powerful aura that filled the air with dread. Not bad. Lingshan's big eyes widened in surprise at Xie Yan's imposing display. Then she chuckled, her hands forming a stance as the massive life and death coffin lid appeared before her. With a light tap of her toes, her petite figure soared through the air, and the coffin lid, radiating black light, slammed down towards Xie Yin with overwhelming force. Inside the heaven-burning cauldron, the demon scorpion elder's face was somewhat grim as he stared at Lin Dong, who hovered in midair. His gaze swept over the cauldron's internal space, and he sneered, "I'll give you credit, kid, for managing to trap me in here. Trust me, I have ways to deal with you," Lin Dong said with a faint smile. "Oh, really?" The demon scorpion elder's gaze turned icy as he took a step forward, his figure vanishing mysteriously. In the blink of an eye, he reappeared beside Lin Dong, his sharp claws, wrapped in a sinister black glow, swiping directly at Lin Dong's back. Swoosh! Just as the attack was about to land, a dark, mummified figure flickered into view. It didn't make any visible movement, but simply stood behind Lin Dong like a shield, taking the full brunt of the blow. Bang! The demon scorpion elder's powerful strike landed squarely on the devouring heavenly corpse, but it had little effect. With a low, muffled sound, the corpse's body trembled slightly, and the deadly aura surrounding it dissipated completely. What? The demon scorpion elder was shocked to see his attack leave no damage on the devouring heavenly corpse. A flash of disbelief crossed his aged face. In a direct fight, I probably wouldn't last a few moves against you. But here, you can't even touch me. Lin Dong retreated gracefully, smiling at the demon scorpion elder. Suddenly, his hands formed a series of complex seals. As the seals changed, the sky above them rippled, and 8 massive crimson gates slowly emerged from the void. Rumble. With the appearance of these 8 gates, the energy within the heaven-burning cauldron became violent, and faint traces of flame seemed to sweep across the sky. The demon scorpion elder glanced up at the crimson gates, sensing the terrifying power radiating from them. His expression grew dark and anxious. This was originally meant for that old ghost, Elder Evilbone. But since you're here first, you might as well get a taste of it. Lin Dong grinned, but his eyes turned sharp, and a deep, commanding shout echoed through the space. 8 extreme scorching heaven formation. Activate the heaven gates. The 8 towering crimson gates hovered in the sky, releasing waves of terrifying energy that spread like a tidal wave. The entire space within the cauldron became unstable. This kid can unleash such a powerful attack? The demon scorpion elder stared in disbelief at the 8 gates. Despite Lin Dong only being at the minor completion of the life mystique stage, the scale of the attack he was preparing was enough to make even the demon scorpion elder's heart pound. I can't let him complete this formation. The demon scorpion elder, with his sharp instincts, realized that while Lin Dong couldn't beat him head-on, if he fully unleashed the power of the heaven-burning cauldron, the resulting attack would be something even he wouldn't dare underestimate. His only option was to destroy the formation before it fully took shape. Whoosh! With this thought, the demon scorpion elder's figure shot forward like a phantom. However, just as he moved, a dark shadow followed closely behind him, relentless and swift. The fierce energy from the devouring heavenly corpse pressed in on his weak points. Bam! Bam! The demon scorpion elder was forced to turn and defend himself, unleashing several powerful strikes. Each of his blows contained overwhelming primordial energy, the kind even a warrior at the perfect completion of the life mystique stage wouldn't dare block. But the devouring heavenly corpse remained unfazed, its body flickering with black light as it absorbed the strikes and charged forward again, showing no fear of death. For a moment, the demon scorpion elder was caught off guard, unable to break free from its relentless pursuit. Damn it! Dodging the corpse's relentless assault, the demon scorpion elder's face grew increasingly grim. The attacks of the devouring heavenly corpse weren't particularly sharp, But the strange thing was that each time his own strikes hit it, the energy seemed to vanish. The corpse clung to him like a stubborn leech, preventing him from making any move against Lin Dong. Lin Dong hovered in midair, his expression calm as he watched the ongoing struggle between the demon scorpion elder and the devouring heavenly corpse. He finally let out a small breath of relief. The appearance of the demon scorpion elder had disrupted his plans, but luckily, he had the devouring heavenly corpse on his side. Without it, he wouldn't have had the time to prepare the formation. Boom. Under Lin Dong's control, the 8 crimson gates began to slowly rotate. Crimson light shot out from the gates, intertwining and forming a massive flame formation. As soon as the formation took shape, the surrounding space distorted under the intense heat, as if it were about to ignite the heavens and earth. Boom. With waves of terrifying flame energy sweeping outward, a massive volcano, nearly 1,000 feet tall, began to materialize at the center of the formation. Lin Dong channeled all of his primordial energy into the formation, pushing his power to its limits. Normally, even if he used all his strength, he wouldn't be able to summon such a massive volcano. This is why Lin Dong always tries to draw powerful enemies into the heaven-burning cauldron when fighting them. After all, his strength hasn't reached the terrifying level of the heaven-burning elder, who could summon a formation in the outside world and suppress opponents directly. Lin Dong still relies on the power of the heaven-burning cauldron. Damn it! The intensifying, scorching waves in the sky were finally sensed by the demon scorpion elder. His face showed signs of panic as he realized that the energy gathering within the formation could actually harm him. Boom, boom, boom. Meanwhile, Lin Dong's command to the devouring heavenly corpse became even more urgent. The corpse charged madly at the demon scorpion elder, abandoning defense entirely in favor of a relentless assault, aiming to strike at his vital points and stop him at all costs. Buzz, buzz. As the demon scorpion elder was entangled by the devouring heavenly corpse, the massive volcano within the formation grew larger. Flames churned on its surface, and molten lava seemed ready to cascade down at any moment. Lin Dong's eyes burned with excitement as he stared at the forming volcano. His face was pale, but his eyes gleamed with exhilaration. The power of the heaven-burning gate far exceeded his expectations. It's almost ready. Taking a deep breath, Lin Dong glanced at the unstable formation nurturing the volcano. With a thought, he spat out a mouthful of essence blood, splitting it into 8 streams that shot into the 8 heaven-burning gates. Boom! The 8 gates trembled violently upon receiving Lin Dong's essence blood. Scarlet beams of light shot out from the gates, pouring down like a vast curtain and completely enveloping the area below. At the center of this field was the demon scorpion elder, still locked in battle with the devouring heavenly corpse. As the space was sealed off, the demon scorpion elder's face darkened. Before he could even shout in rage, Lin Dong changed his hand seals, and the 1,000-foot-tall volcano, now fully formed, plummeted from the sky, carrying a nearly destructive force as it smashed toward the demon scorpion elder. Boom, boom, boom. The volcano crashed down, and the very air seemed to explode under its pressure. Deafening blasts echoed continuously as the air itself ruptured like firecrackers. Whoosh! At Lin Dong's command, the devouring heavenly corpse retreated swiftly. The demon scorpion elder tried to escape as well, but the surrounding red light trapped him, cutting off all avenues of retreat. He had no place to run. I refuse to believe that I'll fall to a mere youngster today. Scorpion devours heaven. The demon scorpion elder roared furiously, and a massive wave of gray, foul-smelling energy erupted from his body. The gray mist condensed and formed into a 1,000-foot-tall giant demonic scorpion. Roar! The scorpion let out a piercing cry as its foul energy surged, and then its enormous pincers slashed out, tearing through the air, colliding directly with the descending volcano. Crash! At the moment of impact, the world seemed to collapse. Terrifying waves of energy swept wildly in all directions, and the ground below crumbled completely. Lin Dong was forced to retreat quickly, while 8 crimson gates appeared around him, shielding him from the devastating energy waves. Roar! 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 As the sky filled with flames, the giant demonic scorpion let out a mournful howl. Its massive body began to crack and soon exploded, utterly crushed beneath the weight of the volcano. The foul energy it released was instantly vaporized by the extreme heat. At the same time, as the giant scorpion was destroyed, the demon scorpion elder turned pale and spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura weakened rapidly. He had clearly suffered severe injuries. Swish. Seeing this, Lin Dong's eyes gleamed coldly. The devouring heavenly corpse rushed forward again, and the 8 crimson gates hovered in the air, poised to finish the job. You wretched brat, remember this? I swear I will have my revenge. The demon scorpion elder's face twisted in horror. Letting out a shrill scream, he spat out his own essence blood, which fell onto his palms. Dark energy surged as he tore through the space in front of him, creating a rift, through which he escaped in a panic. Lin Dong watched as the demon scorpion elder fled from the heaven-burning cauldron, a low groan escaping his throat. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, but he wiped it away with his hand, his pale face still filled with excitement. The power of the 8 Extremes heaven-burning gate was terrifying. It had even forced a top-tier expert at the Death Mystique stage to flee in defeat. A massive black life and death coffin lid hovered in the sky, glowing with dense black light. It swung down mercilessly, colliding with a huge, menacing shadow that had formed from an incoming punch. Bang! As the shadowy figure exploded, a figure was sent flying backward, slamming heavily into a massive tree, shattering its trunk into a cloud of dust. Thud! A mouthful of blood spurted from Xie Yan's lips. His once handsome face now showed intense fear. He looked up in disbelief at Lingshan, who stood ahead with a black coffin lid in her hands. Never in his wildest dreams could he have imagined that this small, childlike girl wielded the strength of someone at the perfect completion of the life mystique stage. No matter how powerful the martial techniques he unleashed were, they were effortlessly swatted away by the casual swings of the coffin lid in her hands. The gap between their abilities was painfully obvious now. He was completely outmatched by this young girl in green. This stark reality caused Xie Yan's face to flush with shame. Among the younger generation in the Celestial Windsea region, very few could claim to be his equal. Yet here he was, beaten into such a pitiful state by a mere girl. If this news spread, his reputation would be in ruins. You're so annoying. I'll sweat you to death. But as his face reddened with frustration, Lingshan paid him no mind. She swung the life and death coffin lid at him again, muttering under her breath as she did. Xie Yan scrambled backward in desperation. He had already tasted the power of that coffin lid and dared not let it hit him again. Swish! Just as he retreated, a flash of blue light appeared before him. Lingshan had already closed the distance, her small hand grabbing at him through the air. A powerful suction force surged forth. Hand over the silver tower. Under the force of her pull, Xie Yan's sleeve flicked, and his cosmic bag flew out, instantly snatched by Lingshan. You! Xie Yan's face twisted in shock. Before he could finish his angry shout, the life and death coffin lid swung toward his face again. He abandoned all thoughts of reclaiming the cosmic bag and dodged awkwardly. The deathly aura brushing past his face made his skin sting, as though it was about to seep into his very pores. Lingshan caught the cosmic bag and tossed it lightly in her hand, flashing a grin that revealed 2 small, sharp canines. However, this cute display only made Xie Yan's eye twitch. Only after facing her could one understand just how terrifying this doll-like girl truly was. With a quick search of the cosmic bag, Lingshan retrieved a small silver tower, Xie Yan's hard-won prize from the auction house. If you dare take that, my evil wind cave heaven will hunt you to the ends of the earth. Xie Yan's eyes turned red as he roared furiously. Evil wind cave heaven? Lingshan pouted, clearly unimpressed. Swish! Just as Lingshan secured the silver tower, the heaven-burning cauldron in the sky trembled, and from it shot out an old, withered figure. Elder Demon Scorpion. Xie Yan's eyes lit up with joy as he shouted urgently, Quick! The silver tower. She's stolen it. But his voice abruptly cut off as terror crept into his eyes. The demon scorpion elder, emerging from the cauldron, appeared disheveled, his aura weak and unstable. He had clearly suffered significant injuries. How is this possible? Xia Yan's pupils shrank as he gasped, his face filled with disbelief. The demon scorpion elder had reached the minor completion of the death mystique stage, and yet he was wounded to this extent? His opponent had only been a young man at the minor completion of the life mystique stage. The demon scorpion elder's face was equally grim, and a hint of fear flickered in his eyes. At this moment, he finally understood why Elder Evil Bone had been so severely injured. Let's go. Without hesitation, the demon scorpion elder appeared beside Xia Yan, grabbed him, and prepared to flee. But Elder Demon Scorpion, the Silver Tower, Xia Yan protested desperately. The elder ignored him. Having been injured by Lin Dong, the elder knew that another strike like that could inflict even greater harm. Staying any longer was pointless. With a swift movement, the demon scorpion elder grabbed Xia Yan, transforming into a streak of gray light that shot toward the horizon, vanishing in mere seconds. As they fled, Lin Dong's figure emerged from the heaven-burning cauldron, watching them escape. A violent cough racked his body, and blood splattered from his mouth. Lin Dong, are you okay? Lingshan rushed over, her voice filled with concern. I'm fine, just overexerted. Lin Dong waved her off. The heaven-scorching gate was formidable, but the energy consumption was equally terrifying. Thankfully, both the demon scorpion elder and Elder Evil Bone were cowards, afraid of death. If they had continued to fight, it might have been Lin Dong fleeing instead. Facing a true death mystique stage powerhouse, Lin Dong was still barely holding on. Did you get it? Lingshan nodded and handed over the silver tower. Lin Dong took the silver tower, feeling the familiar energy pulsating within it. Despite his pale complexion, a trace of barely contained excitement appeared on his face. Finally, he had obtained this item. We should leave now. With a swift motion, he stored the silver tower into his cosmic bag, then waved his sleeve, absorbing the heaven-burning cauldron back into his body. His voice was steady, but there was urgency in it. The area around Celestial Merchant City had become quite chaotic. Although they had managed to drive off the demon scorpion elder earlier, there was no guarantee that the old man wouldn't return. They needed to get away immediately. As soon as Lin Dong spoke, he shot off into the distance, his figure disappearing in a flash. Lingshan followed closely behind, and within moments, they both vanished into the dense mountain range. Once they left, the area quickly returned to silence. If it weren't for the scattered debris and the corpses on the ground, no one would believe that the forces from Evil Wind Cave Heaven had just suffered a crushing defeat here. A gentle breeze swept through the quiet land. After a short while, the space above a large tree twisted, and two figures emerged. One was a woman, dressed in red, who looked very familiar. It was Tang Dongling from the Celestial Merchant Pavilion. The other was a middle-aged man with hair streaked black and white, his deep eyes reflecting the vastness of the ocean. A peculiar energy emanated from his body, causing the surrounding space to subtly warp. Father, it seems that Lin Dong and his companion took the Silver Tower, Tang Dongling said, surprised as she surveyed the scene in front of her. She hadn't expected Lin Dong and Lingshan to snatch something from a powerful death mystique stage expert. That boy certainly has some impressive tricks, but they're only temporary. If his opponent had been a bit more ruthless, he would have been exposed by now, the middle-aged man remarked with a faint smile. Considering the item was stolen in our Celestial Merchant City, won't Evil Wind Cave Heaven come after us? They should know that with your abilities, Father, you must be aware of these events. Tang Dongling frowned slightly. If they couldn't protect their treasure, it's no use blaming me, the man said with a casual smile. Besides, that little girl was holding the life and death coffin lid. She's probably from the immortal Sacred Whale clan. Even Evil Wind Cave Heaven would be forced to swallow their pride when dealing with them. Immortal Sacred Whale clan? Tang Dongling was astonished. She hadn't realized that the young girl had such a significant background. And the Silver Tower? The silver tower may be the key to opening that hidden cave dwelling, but there are 3 in total. The other 2 have already found owners in different sea regions. Even though he acquired one, how much he can gain from that cave dwelling will depend on his abilities. I'm quite interested in that cave dwelling myself, but unfortunately, with our current strength, we can't even enter that area. It seems the owner of the cave is not fond of people at our level, the middle-aged man said with a light chuckle.